Welcome to Breaking the Cycle of Poverty, featuring Jay Height, Executive Director of Shepherd Community Center in Indianapolis. My name is Tim Swearens, and I'm your host for these conversations that explore why poverty remains such a persistent problem in the United States. On this episode, we're discussing Shepherd's work to promote literacy, including this great partnership with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Jay, advocates say that about 1 in 6 adults in Indiana read below a 5th grade level. Test scores also indicate about 70% of students in Marion County schools struggle with reading. How is Shepherd helping to improve literacy among adults and students in Indianapolis?
Yeah, literacy is really the essential part of learning. Up through 3rd grade, you learn to read, and then you read to learn after that. And so if you don't have that foundation, it becomes a challenge. With that, as a stat I just heard this week, about 10% of students have some form of dyslexia. Mm-hmm. And it is, in most cases, hereditary. And so that means many adults have dyslexia. And, at 59 years old, we never even heard of that when we were in school. And so there's many untreated adults. So that's another factor that makes this issue a challenge. And so we are trying to engage all across the spectrum of how we can help families. One of them is this partnership we've had for a few years here with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. It is a fabulous program where every child under the age of 5 has the ability to get a book delivered to their home, either in English or in Spanish. These books have been chosen by literacy experts, and as that official title that I have that's so important, Papal, I've read with my grandkids these books. They're good books, well done, and it's engaging kids in reading. Reading to those little ones is so important to helping them really have a strong foundation so that they're prepared to learn. And so we have 1,135 kids in the 2 zip codes, 46201 and 46203. In those 2 zip codes, we have 1,135 kids who are getting those books. And we pay for that. The state has agreed now, and they pay for half the cost. We pay for the other half. It's not cheap, but we appreciate the state making this a priority as well. Here's the sad story about that. There are only 2 zip codes in Marion County that are currently receiving those. They have not found a sponsor for the rest of Marion County, and we're those 2. And so that came out this week in an article in the IBJ. We appreciate the great partnership that IBJ has with the community in so many ways, but helping us understand that this is an issue and we need to figure out how every other kid can get it. We have over 380 kids who graduated from our Imagination Library program. So that means they're older than 5, so they no longer get the books. And we are working hard to continue to find more kids in those zip codes. I'm a big fan, and this is a national program, and we're thankful that we can do these 2 zip codes. I'll tell you, Tim, one of the best things that some corporation, some foundation says, hey, I'd really like to invest in, this is a great way to invest. We know that kids who receive these books and have been read to, that take what is called, I believe, the SPARK test. SPARK is kindergarten readiness. They will do dramatically better. And so there is great scientific evidence that says this kind of program is good and is impactful. But we don't stop there. As students come into our programs, our goal is 100% of our kids reading at grade level. We're not there yet. We're in the 70s, and we got work to do, whether that's helping kids who have maybe come from a different language. Maybe that's English isn't their first language, it's a second language. Maybe it's kids who are struggling with dyslexia. Maybe it's kids who have some type of challenge, and so we have extra help that we give. We have 2 ELL teachers. We work with full-time tutor working with these kids. We're trying to get more and more volunteers to come in, particularly in our out-of-school learning time, our after-school, where they could come and read with kids and work with a program called Whiz Kids. It's out of Denver, Colorado. And I don't know, Tim, if you remember the old SRA reading labs. There were different colored tabs, and you'd have to read it and then take a test. And we all competed with each other to see how quick we could move. And we all wanted to be at the next color. This program has basically taken that concept of reading comprehension and moved it to the cloud, and is a great program that really anyone can access. Whiz Kids from Denver, Colorado. It costs $75 a year to have the license to access it. You take the kids take an assessment, and then each week someone's reading with them. We could use more volunteers to do that. And then this summer, we even tried to work with some of our high school students who we know that that's at a different spectrum, and we were using some virtual learning. Hey, I'll be the first to admit we'll try something. It didn't work because the group we worked with, they ended up closing shop and not maybe executing the way we had agreed upon it. But we know that it really has to be one-on-one for those kids who might be struggling older. As a pastor, I also say it's important for folks to be able to read God's love letter for themselves.
Yes.
Many people died to give us that ability so that we could read God's love letter, and I want that for my neighbors. One example of what happens when an adult can't read, a young boy in our program had been in the hospital, went over, and his mom said, he's really sick, he's throwing up, he has diarrhea. And I said, well, are you giving, I called my wife, who was trained as a RN, and I said, can you tell me, are you giving him his medicine? And she said, yes, I'm giving it to him 6 times a day. Called my wife, and my wife says, there's no medicine that you take 6 times, no antibiotic you take 6 times a day. She couldn't read, and so she misread it and was over-medicating him, which was making him so sick. There's a lot of those stories where folks have learned how to get by. The term is functionally illiterate, but
Yes.
we want to be able to help our adults, and so that is an area that we try to partner with others to try and help them.
How does it affect employment and income when an adult has very few literacy skills?
You have very limited options. If you can't fill out the application, they're probably not interested. Well, there are some companies that'll take anybody, right? Mm-hmm. But they tend not to pay well, and they don't have benefits and all of those things. And so it is really our desire to help them prepare for success and have that building block, that foundation of literacy.
There's a strong link between literacy and reducing poverty.
Absolutely. I think there are several factors that almost ensure a life of poverty, and one of those is illiteracy.
You mentioned reading to your grandchildren. I think of my grandchildren, and they're surrounded by books in their home, and in my home, they're frequent trips to the library. That's not the reality for a whole lot of kids. What does it mean for a child when they grow up and they're just not surrounded by books?
Yeah, many times poverty is defined by lack of access, and so that's why it was important for us to create the library that's part of the shared system of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library. So all of our students at Shepherd Community get a library card and have access to everything. And then they deliver the books here, and they'll pick up the books here, as well as our own collection of books that we have in our library and with our librarian. We want to help. But the book Freakonomics that came out of University of Chicago's economic department says if you own 6 books, you will do dramatically better. That underscores the financial model and the financial cost of illiteracy and the lack of access to books. I tell folks when I was a kid, each summer I was reading a book a day. Sometimes it's even Mom would take me to the library, and I'd sit there and read, and I've read every Hardy Boys and Little House on the Prairie and Tolkien, and I went places throughout the world in my mind by reading. It broadened my world, but it strengthened my skills and my literacy muscle, if you will, by forcing myself to read things. And so my vocabulary grew bigger. Some would say too big. I talk too much, but it is all those things that reading does to help you.
How can volunteers get involved with Shepherd in helping students and adults learn to become better readers?
I think number one, volunteer. Come in and help us do the Whiz Kids program. We need volunteers to do that. That would be a huge help to us. Maybe donating books and finding those. And also to say, maybe helping in their own community. Support your libraries. They're important. And we want to have access to books for our kids and make sure they're the right books that can help.
Thank you, Jay. For 39 years, Shepherd Community has made a lasting difference in the lives of thousands and thousands of neighbors. The Shepherd team couldn't do that work without the support of donors, partners, and volunteers. To learn more about how you can help, please visit shepherdcommunity.org.
Thank you.